What if I told you you could achieve your dream physique with just one all-out set to failure per muscle group once or twice a week? Sounds too good to be true, that, doesn't it? Well, there's a style of training that blew up in the 70s called high-intensity training. We're talking Mike Mentor, Dorian Yates. We're talking legendary physiques that have been built on hard graft, but very little amount of sets. It even showed up in the famous Colorado experiment where participants reportedly gained a ridiculous amount of muscle in just under a month with this simple method. So what is high intensity training? Well, on paper, the method is simple. You train a movement to complete failure with very little amount of sets across the entire week, doing less sessions than you usually probably would, so you can recover quicker and come back stronger. Broken down into three main parts. Number one, it needs to be true muscular failure. So that means when you are doing, for example, a bench press or a bicep curl, for example, that means you physically cannot bring your arm from point A to point B. Literally, you cannot finish the entire set, okay? People mistake this all the time. Even, again, taking aside this method, people think they're training to failure when 9 times out of 10, if they had that push, they had that drive, they could always squeeze out another 2 or 3 reps. So basically, we just need to make sure that you physically cannot move that weight another inch, because then we know you're fully finished. Number 2 is going to be minimal sets, something you're probably not used to. You may at the minute be doing 2, 3, sometimes even 4 sets per muscle group. With this simple method, you're only going to be doing 2 at maximum. Majority of the time, it's just 1 top set. Number 3, as I sort of touched on earlier, it's going to be minimal sessions. Think full body once or twice a week. Okay, so you're hitting everything, yes, but for a very short space of time, but with maximum intensity. So I'm sure now, if obviously you're still watching, you're a little bit intrigued in terms of you may be going to give this a shot, right? But is it the correct method for you to use specifically in your unique journey? Well, to be honest, obviously training to failure all the time and true muscular failure, it takes a lot out of you. It taxes your body a lot, creating a lot of fatigue. And you also have to think, if you're always redlining your sessions, funny way to put it, if we look at the start of the session, maybe the top 2, 3 exercises, you're putting your all amount of energy into them particular exercises. Naturally, as you get towards the back end of that session, because we're not speaking about a normal push-pull like leg split, we're speaking full body, every single exercise in that full body workout is going to be a heavy taxing movement, right? We're not talking like cable flies and stuff like that and all these accessory movements. They're going to be big, solid movements, okay? So when you get towards the back end, let's say the last maybe 2, 3 exercises, you're going to be very fatigued, right? And to try and progress them exercises over a period of time, it's naturally going to be a lot more difficult. Whereas smart programming, let's say we use the example of a push-pull legs, upper, lower, anything like that, that aims for the best stimulus with the least amount of unnecessary fatigue, so you can carry out quality sets and add good quality load all the way through the entire week. Most of you will grow better hitting the majority of your exercises close to failure, but not redlining it and going past it every single time, having drop sets and intensifiers and all these different things till your arms are like falling off. Having a good structure, as we said with the push-pull legs, gives you the opportunity to have a good amount of volume across the entire week. Think around 12 to 20 quality sets per muscle group per week. Structuring your training like this gives you adequate recovery in between your sessions, meaning when you come and do each and every session day by day, you feel refreshed, you feel recovered and ready to progress and add more load and add more reps within them sessions. So is this high intensity training, is it useful or is it completely useless? I would say not at all. If you are busy, like if you're truly busy, not telling lies, and you actually haven't got enough time in the day to actually train, looking at this as an adequate training style in terms of 1 or 2 sessions per week, aggressively going into them sessions, redlining them sessions, and then maybe you do a Monday session and then maybe a Friday session or anything like that. For you, that would probably be the best option, because if you're trying to, again, do a push-pull legs, upper, lower, or anything like that, it's probably not going to be manageable for you. Okay, so if you have this style of training, you put a maximum amount of effort into it, you're adding on good quality weight, you're adding a good amount of reps, your intensity is very, very high. 1 or 2 sessions is probably going to move the needle for you, as long as you're doing what needs to be done on them other 23 hours a day in terms of sleep, in terms of nutrition, in terms of everything else around it. But if you have got the time, or you're first starting out, or in your first 1 or 2 years of training, I would highly, highly recommend looking at something like an upper lower or a push-pull leg split, because you're going to get adequate recovery in between them sessions because you have the time to do so. And if you are always redlining your sessions and really ramping up that intensity and going absolutely balls to the wall, like crazy intensity, the risk of injury then will naturally increase. Okay. And again, you want to make sure, and that's obviously as low as possible. I think even to add on to that point, as I said earlier in the video, a lot of people still do not know what muscular failure is. Obviously, we know what it is, but when I say that, what I mean is people struggle to actually find what their limit is. They think they're pushing to failure, but usually they have at least 2 or 3 reps in their tank. So to try a method like this, when you're not actually haven't got the capacity to take things to failure anyway, you're just going to be leaving a lot of progress on the table, and it's naturally going to cause slower progress week on week. But whether you listen to me or not, or you are on the other side and you really do not have enough time to train more than 2 or 3 times a week, this is probably how I'd run it. 1, I pick 4 to 5 big movements across your whole entire body. Remember, these need to be big movements. You need to be getting as much bang for your buck within these movements, because if we are only hitting 1 or 2 sessions per week, you need to make sure that you're squeezing as much progress, as much juice, however you want to phrase it, out of them sessions as possible. 2, always important, make sure you are warming up properly, okay? Wherever you are in the world, obviously naturally, especially this time of year, it's going to be colder, right? So you need to spend 5 or 10 minutes at the start of your session. I would do a short incline walk just to get that heart rate up, 5 or 10 minutes, naturally get a little bit warmer, get your joints a little bit more lubricated. Again, stretch out all the relevant muscles that you're going to be hitting. Again, do a little bit more rotator cuff work and stuff like that. Again, just because you are going to be going heavy in these sessions, right? So you need to get your muscles obviously warm for them, but you need to get your joints warm for them, okay? So naturally then, when you've done that, you're reducing that risk of injury. Number 3, 2 sets max, no more than that. So you would have 1, which is going to be a heaviest set, all out. Well, both of them are going to be all out anyway, but obviously one of them is obviously going to be naturally heavier, and then you can add in, if again, you can test this, but if you feel like you can handle it, you can add in a back offset. So you do a top set and a back offset, but both are going to be done to maximum intensity. And again, even towards the back end of the set, if you can add some intensifiers in terms of, right, again, we take the bicep curl, for example. If you can't physically bring that to point A to point B, then again, even just do some half reps to literally burn out. Remember, you want to make sure that you physically can't move your arms after every single exercise. And then sessions wise, 1 to 3 sessions per week. I would argue if you can do 3 sessions, you should really be doing like a push-pull legs at least. Again, this method really is for people that want to get in and out, and they physically, from a time standpoint, cannot really get more than 2 sessions in. Okay, so if you are going to be doing that, everybody's week is going to look slightly differently, but I would start off on a Monday with 1 of the sessions, and then the back end of the week on a Friday, just so you get adequate recovery in between them sessions, so it's stacking the chips in your favor in terms of obviously progressing week on week. Yeah, that's exactly how I would run it if I was obviously doing this HIIT style training. Just before we wrap up, I guess to give you a bit more clarity in terms of how I'd structure a session. First exercise, I would hit legs hard, so something like a squat or a leg press variation. Second exercise, I would do some form of horizontal press. Third exercise, I'd do some form of rope or like pull down, very, very heavy. Fourth, I would do like a hip hinge or maybe like a hip thrust. Again, thinking getting more bang for your buck within each particular exercise. Finally, wrap it up with a bit of an arm superset, so maybe a bicep curl and some skull crushers. To round everything off, if you haven't got the capacity to train more than 2 days a week, I would give this a try and at least attempt it. Just remember though, you need to make sure to see fast progress. You need to make sure that you're doing everything that needs to be done on the other 23 hours of the day, in terms of sleep, in terms of proper nutrition, in terms of proper recovery. Because if not, you're just going to be spinning your wheels, and with this method, you will burn out very, very quickly. But for anybody else, if you can train 3 to 4 times a week. Again, a push, pull, legs. And if you can do an additional session, an upper session is always going to be good. If you got the min rolls, lob a 5th session in there for another leg session. So that's a wrap. A little bit of a different video. So if you enjoyed it, like I said, let me know in the comments. If you didn't, again, let me know in the comments. I'm always open to it. So comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Again, still a newbie to the game. But yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed it. Hopefully you've got something from it. If there's any sort of like questions you've got or anything like that, obviously feel free to drop me a message and I can go over this in a little bit more detail. But that's your lot. Thanks for coming.